Imagine if every web browser spoke a completely different language. Your website might look perfect in Chrome, broken in Firefox, and invisible in Edge. That sounds chaotic, right? Well, this is exactly the problem that WebStandards solve. In this video, we'll explore what WebStandards are, who creates them, and why they matter. Web standards are a set of agreed upon rules and technologies that ensure websites work consistently across browsers, devices, and operating systems. They are not made by a single company, but by international organizations. W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium, creates standards for HTML, CSS, and accessibility. WHATWORK, the Web Hypertext Application Technology Working Group, maintains the living standard of HTML. ECMA International oversees the ECMAScript standard, which defines JavaScript. And IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force, sets standards for protocols like HTTP. So why do standards matter? They guarantee interoperability, your site works everywhere. Accessibility, your content can be understood by assistive technologies. Security, safer experiences for users. And future-proofing, your site won't break as the web evolves. For example, when I write a simple piece of HTML like Hello World, it looks the same across Chrome, Firefox, and Edge. That's standards at work. But if I try using something outdated like MacU, some browsers show it, others don't. That's what happens when you don't follow the rules. Web standards are the traffic rules of the internet. They make sure everyone plays by the same rules so the web remains open and reliable. In the next video, we'll look at the first and most important standard of them all, HTML, the foundation of every web page. When you visit a website, what makes the text, images, and links come together into something structured instead of just plain words on a screen? The answer is HTML. In this video, we'll explore how HTML forms the backbone of the web and why writing semantic HTML is so important. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's the standard for structuring web content. Think of HTML as the building blocks of a web page. It gives content meaning and hierarchy. Now, not all HTML is equal. Modern HTML emphasizes semantics. That means using elements that describe their role. For example, head defines the top section of a page. Nav defines navigation menu. Main defines the central content area. Article represents a piece of content like a blog post. Footer marks the bottom of the page. Why is this important? Semantic HTML improves accessibility. Screen readers can better understand the structure. It boosts SEO because search engines know what your content represents. Semantic HTML makes your site easier to maintain. Let's build a simple page. Open your code editor and type the following code. When you're done, save as index.html. With just a few tags, we've given our page structure that both browsers and assistive technologies can understand. HTML is the foundation of every website, and semantic HTML makes your site more accessible, more discoverable, and easier to maintain. In the next video, we'll move to the second major standard, CSS, the language that brings your pages to life with design and style. HTML gives your website structure, but without design, it looks, well, pretty boring. That's where CSS comes in. In this video, we'll explore how CSS, the cascading style sheets standard, transforms plain HTML into beautiful, consistent designs. CSS is the standard that controls how web pages look. It defines colors, fonts, spacing, and layouts. The word cascading refers to how styles are applied. If there are multiple rules, CSS decides which one takes priority. Before CSS, developers used outdated practices like the font tag or inline styling, which made sites harder to maintain and less consistent. With CSS, we separate content from presentation. This means we can change the look of an entire website by editing just one file. Here's our blog page from the last video, but let's add some CSS. With just a few rules, we've turned a plain HTML page into something cleaner, more readable, and visually appealing. CSS ensures consistent, flexible design across browsers, is the web standard for presentation, and it works hand in hand with HTML to create modern websites. In the next video, we'll move on to the third core standard of the web, JavaScript, the language that adds interactivity and logic. HTML gives us structure, CSS gives us style, but what if we want a website to do something like respond to a click, fetch live data, or update without refreshing? That's where JavaScript comes in. In this video, we'll explore JavaScript as a standardized language that powers interactivity on the web. JavaScript is the standard programming language of the web. It is defined by ECMAScript, a specification maintained by ECMA International. This means every modern browser from Chrome to Safari to Firefox follows the same rules for interpreting JavaScript. JavaScript allows us to manipulate the DOM, which is Document Object Model, handle user interactions like clicks and key presses, communicate with servers using APIs like Fetch. Because it's standardized, you can write JavaScript once and expect it to work everywhere. Here's an example. This little script adds interactivity. When the user clicks the button, text appears instantly. That's JavaScript in action. Following standardized rules, browsers all understand. JavaScript brings life to web pages. Thanks to ECMAScript standards, developers can count on their code working across different browsers. In the next video, we'll look at web APIs, the tools that let us go beyond buttons and build rich, powerful applications. JavaScript is powerful on its own, but what makes it truly shine are the APIs, the application programming interfaces. built into every browser. In this video, we'll explore the standardized web APIs that allow developers to do everything from fetching data to drawing graphics. The DOM, or Document Object Model, is itself a web standard. It represents a web page as a tree of objects that JavaScript can manipulate. Beyond the DOM, browsers provide standardized web APIs such as Fetch for making network requests, Local Storage for saving data in the browser, Canvas API for 2D graphics, and Geolocation API for accessing location data. Because these APIs are standardized, developers can rely on them working consistently across browsers. Here's an example using Fetch to grab data from a public API. This tiny snippet fetches a random quote and displays it on the page. No extra software required, just standard web technologies. Web APIs extend JavaScript far beyond basic interactivity, allowing developers to build full-featured applications. In the next video, we'll explore another essential standard, accessibility, and why building an inclusive web is part of following web standards. The web is for everyone. That means it must be accessible to people with different abilities. In this video, we'll explore accessibility standards as it ensures the web remains inclusive. Accessibility is guided by the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG. These standards define how to make content usable for people with disabilities. They encourage practices like providing alt text for images, using labels for form fields, ensuring proper heading hierarchy, adding area rows and attributes when necessary. These practices are in line with the principles of WCAG, which are perceivable, operable, understandable, robust. Accessibility isn't an afterthought, is a core part of web standards. Here's an example. The alt ensures screen readers can describe the image, and the labels ensure the form and the navigation region are usable by everyone. Accessible websites aren't just legally required in many places, they are also better for users, better for SEO, and better for the web as a whole. In the next video, we'll see how performance and responsive design also rely on web standards. Have you ever visited a site that looked great on a laptop but was broken on your phone? That's a sign of ignoring web standards for responsiveness. In this video, we'll see how standards help websites adapt to different devices and perform well everywhere. Responsive designs ensure websites look good on screens of all sizes. Standards that support this include the viewport meta tag for mobile scaling, CSS flexbox and grid for modern layouts, media queries for adapting designs. Here's a simple responsive layout with CSS grid. This layout shows two columns on larger screens and collapses into one column on smaller devices automatically thanks to standardized CSS. Performance also matters. Standards encourage efficient practices like optimizing images, minimizing code, and using built-in APIs instead of hacks. Responsive, performant websites create better user experiences and follow modern best practices. In the next video, we'll learn how to test and validate our sites against the standards we've been following. Following web standards is great, but how do you know your code is correct? That's where validation and testing come in. In this video, we'll explore tools that help you check your work. Validation ensures that your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript follow official standards. Some essential tools are W3C Validator for HTML and CSS can I use for checking browser support, browser DevTools for debugging. Using these tools ensures your code is correct, consistent, and future-proof. Here's a quick example. I copy my HTML into the W3C validator and it highlights errors like a missing auth attribute. Fixing these ensures my site is truly standards compliant. Validation tools help us catch mistakes early and ensure consistency. In the next video, we'll explore the difference between modern, standards-based code and outdated, deprecated practices. The web is constantly evolving. Some practices that were once common are now outdated and even harmful. In this video, we'll look at modern versus deprecated practices. Deprecated tags and practices include marquee for scrolling text, center for alignment, font for styling. These have been replaced by standards like CSS animations instead of marquee, CSS text align center instead of center, CSS font properties instead of font. Using these deprecated features risk breaking your site as browsers drop support. Here's an example. Both show red-centered text, but only the second uses standardized CSS. Sticking to modern standards keeps your site compatible and future-proof. In the final video, we'll wrap up everything we've learned and talk about where to go next. We've come a long way in this series, from the basics of web standards to accessibility, performance, and modern practices. In this final video, let's recap what we've learned and talk about where to go next. To build for the modern web, you need to understand web standards, HTML for structure, CSS for styling, JavaScript for interactivity, web APIs for advanced features, accessibility standards for inclusivity, responsive design for multi-device support, validation tools for testing compliance, and avoiding deprecated practices. All of these come together to form open, reliable, and universal web we all depend on. Remember, the best place to stay updated is MDN Web Documentations. Whenever you're unsure, MDN is your go-to resource. Thank you for joining me on this journey through web standards. Now it's your turn. Start building projects that follow these standards and make the web a better place for everyone. Check MDN, validate your code, and always code with standards in mind.